my name is Abagale Saulters, and I'm going to be reading the book I wrote, which is called Cloud Cats. Dedication. I would like to dedicate this book to my first cat, which began my love of all things feline, Bella. Acknowledgements. I would also like to acknowledge my mother, who taught me to love reading, believed in me when I wanted to become an author, and taught me writing in the 4th grade. I also gathered a lot of inspiration for my characters from my amazing family, which includes my father and 2 fun-loving younger brothers, Trin and Joseph. Chapter 1. The rain dripped down from the leaves of the tree onto my head, the consequence of avoiding benches, but who could blame me after what had happened 2 years before this gloomy day? Making games with sticks, dirt, and bugs was not fun and did not settle my boredom, but it was only while I was sitting crisscross back to the tree, braiding my long brown hair, that a storm arrived. I heard thunder, so I got up and went over to get my bike from off the pole that holds the little Elmwood Park sign. With one eye on the clouds, I saw something dart from a puffy white cloud to another cloud, seeming to turn the clouds it touched gray. I rubbed my eyes, not believing it. A gray cat with dark yellow and bright white stripes was darting through clouds. Horrified and stunned, I got on my bike and pedaled away. My house was in view within a few minutes. I zoomed into the garage, put my bike on the rack, and pulled down the door. I walked inside from the garage and immediately heard my mother saying, "Oh, Rose, I'm so sorry. I saw the lightning and I'm going to cancel the therapy sessions. And it's okay if you just want to be in your room right now," she said in a rush. I didn't answer her, just walked up the stairs to my room and shut my door instead. While flopping onto my bed, I thought about my day, something I do often only because the therapist suggested it. I did not like taking her advice, but it seemed like the only thing I could do. This time, I decided to be honest with myself. Ross, my older brother, had died 2 years ago. He had been sitting on a park bench in Lake Charles, Louisiana, caught in a usual late-night thunderstorm. Soon after, my mother started searching for the driest places to live in the United States. And before I knew it, she had our entire family, which now only consisted of my father, mother, and myself, moving to Josephine, Texas. We soon realized, however, that she had not been completely correct in her research. Josephine had thunderstorms too, but luckily not as many as where we came from. Since my mother had spent all of her money trying to get us and all of our stuff from Louisiana to Texas, we had to stick with it. My dad got a job as the city manager, but my mom decided not to work anymore. Now she just stayed around the house cleaning it all the time. Yet I was still forced to go outside and enjoy nature. But there was nothing enjoyable about my brother dying, all thanks to nature. Fury was my only emotion in that moment, but quickly it was taken over by tears for my long-lost brother. Chapter 2. My mother held her promise about canceling my therapy sessions. I really didn't care whether I went to see that crazy lady or not. Whether I went or not, I knew there was no hope I would get over Ross. Eventually, the smell of breakfast rose into my room. I walked silently down the stairs and crept across the carpet and sat down in my usual seat next to the kitchen. My mother turned around with a start and was shocked at how silently I came in. She informed me what was on the breakfast menu for today. "Toast, eggs, waffles, and biscuits with gravy," she exclaimed proudly. I heard a popping noise when she finished talking and tried to look over her shoulder to see what had caused it. But she had already turned her back to me and was walking over to the toaster. Suddenly, a thought came to my mind, a memory, dashing back. A cat with lightning stripes darting through clouds. But my mom interrupted my thoughts by placing a plate in front of me. The white flowered china plate held a great variety of today's breakfast, which to my dismay included my mother's style of toast, which in my opinion was completely raw, like it was barely cooked. I preferred black burnt toast, but my mother despised it greatly. "Well, go ahead and eat it. Don't tell me I did all of this cooking for nothing," my mother huffed furiously. "It's not going to waste. Dad will eat it, and I want to go to Elmwood Park anyway," I protested. This confused my mother. "You don't like nature, and you're not being forced. Why would you want to go?" She eyed me suspiciously. But just then my dad thundered down the stairs, making the wood creak and screech madly. Donna, if she wants to go, and frankly, he said, rubbing his half-bald head as he sat in his chair. I don't see what's so wrong with her going to a park. My mother was clearly angered at his entrance, so she argued. I didn't say she couldn't go, I just wanted to know why. Is there anything wrong with that? I quickly ate my toast, assuming that it would be the easiest to eat in a hurry, and walked out of the door. My parents too busy arguing to pay attention. Setting off for my bike in the garage, I noticed that for the first time how warm and sunny it was, especially since there had been a thunderstorm the night before. I hoped that the cat was still there. Pedaling to the sign and leaving my bike took no time at all, and soon I felt ridiculous walking around and looking up at the sky. Then I heard somebody shouting but couldn't see anyone. You always have to turn my sunny day into a storm. The clouds I have to restore after you decide to make thundering loud meows and light up the sky. Well, while you have your little tantrum, I'm up here working the entire day just to get half the world looking normal again. Then another voice responded, Well, I'm sorry that when I get mad, that's what I do, so it's not my fault. All of a sudden, a very fluffy sheep-looking cat fell from off of a cloud. Hissing and spitting ferociously, it glanced at me and ducked behind a trash can. I walked over. The cat was hissing angrily at the cloud above. I can't believe you! A furless saw me! This is your fault! What are you? You hop on clouds and can talk? I interrupted. The white cat looked at me, then spoke. Follow me. You have to walk on the air like it's a staircase. She got to the top easily, then looked down at me. I tried but fell. She yanked 2 pieces off of the cloud she was sitting on, which left a little gap in the cloud. Then she brought them down to me. Put these on your feet and follow me, she demanded. So I pulled my shoes off and slipped my feet through the cloud pieces. I was brought a few feet above the ground. Start stepping like you're walking upstairs, the white cat reminded me. I did, and surprisingly, when I put my foot down on the air and hesitantly put all of my weight on that foot, hoping that I wouldn't fall like I did the first time. I didn't, and soon I was walking easily with the white cat next to me, bounding up the air steps. After I started looking at the air steps, I could see that they had a sort of iridescent outline, and that reassured me. Finally, we reached the top and stepped on a cloud, and like the air steps, I didn't sink. The lightning-striped cat I had seen the night before was sitting on a dark nearby cloud, looking down and muttering, Oh, where did Miss go now? The white cat, Mist, heard this and took her chance to fling herself at him and yell, Hey, Lightning, did you miss me? Loudly in his ear. He turned around and saw me. You brought a furless, he growled. A very peculiar one, Mist said. How Lightning was looking very angry now. She can speak Cloud Cat, finished Mist with a cat smile. Chapter 3. Lightning and Mist were now asking me questions. So, you can understand us? Mist had asked. Yes, can't everyone? I responded, still feeling like this was perhaps all a dream. How can you two walk on clouds and change the weather? I demanded, curiosity winning out over the surrealism of the situation. This time Lightning responded, Because we're cloud cats. We can walk on clouds by using air steps that normal cats can't, just like you did to get here. Normally a furless such as yourself can't understand us, even though we can understand them, she continued. We change the weather based on what kind of cloud cat we are. For example, I create thunderstorms when I'm angry and... I interrupted Lightning furiously. So you killed my brother? Realization and grief striking at the same time. How did your brother die? Lightning asked, while eyeing me cautiously. A thunderstorm at a park in Lake Charles, I answered. Lightning was looking angry too now. No, that was not a cloud cat that caused that then. It was a stormer. Mist was looking scared. I'm so sorry, but stormers are what the cloud cats call cloud dogs. They're the cause of killing weather, but they can't stay on a cloud for too long because the cloud will turn black and rip. Where do stormers live? I asked, looking around madly, half expecting to see one sitting on the next cloud. You can't kill a stormer before they kill you, said Lightning, reading my mind. I think it's time for you to go back to your furless world, Mist meowed. Fine, but I'll be back at 10 o'clock tomorrow, I relented, not ready to leave. My blood was boiling over this newfound information regarding my brother and the potential cause of his death. Okay, now follow me, Mist replied gently. Mist led me down the air steps, said goodbye, and hurried back up to Lightning. I heard her hiss something to Lightning, then they both hopped to a cloud farther away. I still couldn't believe what had happened. I know what killed my brother, I gasped softly to myself, and it wasn't just any thunderstorm. It was a stormer. Chapter 4. I had already put my bike up in the garage where normally my dad's car is parked, but this time it was empty except for my mother's car, which was parked on the other side of the garage. He must be at work, I thought. When I opened the door to our little brown house, I figured that I was right about my dad being at work, and when I asked my mother about it, she confirmed that I was right. Your dad called me and told me that he wasn't going to make it to dinner, she responded to me, the gloom apparent in her voice. I was fine with that because that meant that my mother would probably send me up to bed early to wait for my dad. I nodded and sat down at the dinner table. You were gone for a long time today, my mother eyed me like she had at breakfast when I told her where I was going to be. Yep, I finally realized my secret passion for trees, I sarcastically replied. My mother now looked suspicious of me and mad at my sarcasm. You're going straight to bed with no dessert, she declared. I answered by saying, all right, and when do we ever have dessert? She looked a little guilty. Well, I was planning to make some tonight, but I sat there waiting for her to finish, but instead she decided just to change the subject. Well, it's just you and me. Let's eat. Soon my mother had brought out mashed potatoes, corn, rolls, peas, spaghetti, and salad. For Dad not being here, you cooked a lot of food, I stated. She didn't answer. Instead, she filled in the silence by sliding a plate to me filled with everything she had cooked. I wolfed it down quickly and ran up the stairs to my room, opened my door, and slammed it before my mother could protest. But I maybe should have thought about what would happen if I slammed my door. A picture frame fell off my dresser. Quickly, I went over to pick it up. Somehow, it had managed not to crack. I picked it up and flipped it around to see what picture it contained. Clearly, I had forgotten about it because I did not recognize the photo for a minute, and then it all came rushing back to me. Ross. He was laughing, and we appeared to be holding hands on the trampoline. Suddenly, the old picture of our childhood was dotted with my tears. Chapter 5. The sunshine coming from outside my window was blinding, and my eyes seemed to be more foggy than usual, but that was because I had cried myself to sleep that night thinking about Ross, and now the picture that had caused that had been stuffed at the bottom of my drawer and covered in clothes, the way I liked it to be. Then I remembered what I had said to Mist yesterday before I left, that I would be back today at 10 o'clock. I quickly glanced at the only clock I had in my room. It was hanging above my bed. It read 8, only 2 hours until I could go meet up with the Cloud Cats, Mist, and Lightning. I walked down the stairs and saw that my mother was not in the kitchen. In fact, I didn't see her anywhere. She must have been sleeping. She had stayed up until my dad got home, which would have been really late. I crept silently to the cabinet in the kitchen and opened it carefully, with crossed fingers that it wouldn't creak like most things in our house. It didn't, which gave me the okay to pull out a breakfast bar, and then I saw a can of tuna. I wasn't sure what my mother would need that for. As far as I knew, no one in my house ate tuna. But I did know that cats did, and stuffing both things in my strangely wide pants pockets, I opened the door cautiously, then made sure to shut it all the way so that no one would know that I had snuck out. I pedaled back to the little Elmwood Park sign, and as usual, abandoned my bike there. I walked to the place where I had met the Cloud Cats yesterday, and looking around to see if anyone was watching, the coast was clear, so I yelled up at the sky, "Hey, it's me, Rose, I'm back. I know I'm 2 hours early, but can I still come up?" Then luckily I heard a yell and Mist came tumbling down a nearby cloud. I walked over to her and asked, "How do you manage to land on your feet after jumping at least 20 feet from a cloud?" "Well, first, I didn't jump. Lightning shoved me off like the first time I found you. And if I land on my paws, that's how you know I'm a cat." Well, sort of, Miss replied proudly, but still angry at Lightning for pushing her off. And today I will be teaching you how to use air steps without cloud shoes. So it's actually better that you're 2 hours early. Okay, I said, excited that I would be learning how to be able to get up to the clouds without having to wait on Mist to bring me cloud shoes. I like your enthusiasm, replied Mist, because now a ridiculously wide smile had spread across my face. I like it too. Can we start now? I asked. Then something gray came running down the air steps. Lightning, I'm teaching Rose how to use air steps, and you obviously agreed. Pushing me off the clouds, does that ring a bell? Miss said grimly. But you're going to teach her the wrong way. Leave it up to me, Rose. Come on. Lightning replied. No, Rose, don't listen to him. I'm teaching you, Miss argued back. Y'all could both teach me, I suggested, simply eager to learn. They were very unhappy about my proposal, and you could see just the idea of teaching me together brought a grimace to their face and a growl to their throats. But after a while, they had somehow managed to teach me, and soon I was walking up invisible, imaginary air steps to the tops of fluffy white clouds. Chapter 6. I pedaled home and crept back through the door, but that was a complete waste, because my mother and father were sitting on the couch in the living room. So, nature, my mother said into the silence. We all waited with bated breath. I can promise you that I was at Little Elmwood, I whispered, hoping that my parents would believe me. Well, why didn't you just tell us where you were going? My mother spoke again, suspicious still saturating her voice. You were sleeping, I argued. Finally, my dad spoke. You are going to spend the rest of the day in your room. My mother eyed my dad clearly. They had not discussed this form of punishment. But I didn't wait around. Soon, I flopped on my bed, looking out the window. After about 2 hours, dinner came and my stomach did not delay in telling me so. My mother did end up bringing up some food, but when she did, she acted like I was a man-eating tiger trapped in a cage. She did not even come in my room, just silently slid a plate under my door, then traveled down the stairs. I hurried over to the food and didn't even taste it because I was swallowing it so quickly. Within seconds, I had eaten my roll and leftover peas. I plopped back onto my bed, but something poked me. I felt a lump in my back pocket. I reached in and pulled out a breakfast bar and a can of tuna. Well, I guess I would give it to them tomorrow. I put the tuna can under my bed and ate my melted breakfast bar, then fell asleep on my pillow, anxious for the next day. Chapter 7. There was a tapping noise coming from my door, then my mother's voice calling, Rose, wake up, get dressed, and be downstairs in 3 minutes. I threw my blanket off of me and it flew across the room and landed on the floor. I ran over to my dresser and opened all of the drawers till I managed to get some decent clothes on, a gray shirt with my only pair of jeans, and flung myself out of the door and stumbled down the stairs. When I got to the bottom, I saw that both of my parents were waiting for me, so I went over to where they were seated on the couch as though they had not moved since last night, and asked, What's going on? Why did I have to be down here in 3 minutes? My dad explained, Well, we made a breakfast reservation for some new place called Pancake Parlor. I spoke again. Why do I have to go? And who even makes a breakfast reservation? I don't even think that's a thing. My dad looked at my mom. She looked at him, then back at me and began. All of us are going as a family, and breakfast reservations are a thing. Suddenly, I remembered the tuna under my bed. Okay, but can I go to Little Elm really quick? My dad firmly said no, but I realized that there was a chance if I could put the tuna in my pocket and give it to them later. I need to go get my purse, I lied, but my mother did not buy it. You do not have a purse, and we need to leave. I was getting desperate now. Okay, I just need to go to the bathroom really quick. My mom was already getting up and moving to the door. My father was close behind her. You can go when we get to the restaurant, she said. It's an emergency, I yelled. Fine, my mother huffed while opening the door. I ran through my already opened door and retrieved the tuna. But just when I was about to run downstairs again, I heard a voice coming from my window. I looked and saw Mist pulling Lightning with her paws onto my windowsill. Ow! Ouch, you're pulling my fur, she hissed. Do you want to get up or not, Miss howled back. What are you two doing here? I've got to leave. I walked over and pulled Lightning up. He was heavier than I thought, so it took some effort. We don't have anywhere else to go. There's a cloudless sky. Miss looked out of the window, so I did too. Miss had been right. The sun was shining brightly, and the sky was a beautiful light baby blue, but there was no clouds. Then Lightning decided to speak. Besides, I smell something really good. Can we please stay? He looked around hopefully. I pulled the can of tuna out of my pocket, opened it, then set it on the floor. I guess this is tuna. You can eat it. They rushed over. Miss took a big bite, then licking her lips, she said, I know what tuna is. Thanks, bye. Then she bent over the can to eat some more. Lightning was purring when I ran down the stairs. I opened the door and ran out to the car where my parents were waiting. Got in the back of my mother's small SUV, buckled my seatbelt, and they took off, my dad in the driver's seat, my mom in passenger. We arrived after a while to a brown decaying building where my dad parked in one of only 10 slots. I thought you said this place was new. It looks pretty old to me, I said to my dad while pushing the red button on my seatbelt to be released. It is. They got the building from a small store and turned it into a pancake parlor, my dad explained. Inside the restaurant, my parents told the front counter lady that they had made a reservation. She replied in a bored voice, looking at her multicolored fingernails, You're late. With a heavy sigh, she picked up some menus and silverware and showed us our booth at the back of the small building. We sat down. My mother and father were just staring at me until I finally broke the silence. Why are you guys staring at me? Excuse me, what would you like to order? Our waitress had arrived. After a couple of seconds when we didn't answer, she replied, I can give you more time if you would like. My mother quickly scanned the menu, then said while staring at me again, I would like to order your cheese and bacon omelet, and for the drinks we will all have waters. Nobody objected. My dad then ordered 2 biscuits with chicken gravy. Then the waitress, after writing down my parents' orders on a piece of scratch paper, turned to me. And for you, miss? She asked. I took a little longer to find out what I wanted on the menu, then answered, I want to get 1 jumbo-sized pancake and tater tots with some ketchup. I was shocked at what I heard from her next. I'm so sorry, but we do not have ketchup. Will that be all right? I did not answer her, just let my curiosity run loose instead. Are you out? My parents looked angry and looked as though they were about to say something, but the waitress was quicker to answer. No, I'm sorry, we are not out. We just don't sell ketchup. She paused before asking, Is that all? I nodded my head and she took our menus and walked off. Now, we were all just staring at each other. Then my mother spoke. You have been acting strange lately. Not believing what I had heard, I yelled a bit and sounded hysterical when I said, You guys are acting strange, making breakfast reservations and just staring at me? Now you're calling me strange? We got a lot of looks from nearby tables, and the front counter lady looked like she was deciding whether to let us stay or kick us out. My parents didn't speak, just kept staring until the food came out, and for a second I wondered if they were going to stare at me while eating. Thankfully they didn't, but they kept glancing up at me as I tried to pretend I couldn't see them and feel their eyes staring at my head as I ate my food. Chapter 8. We came to a stop in the garage. My parents still remained acting strange, but dropped the staring manner, and I got full privacy in my room if you didn't count Mist and Lightning. I really wish that we could stay here forever. It's been so relaxing, purred Lightning, still content after eating the tuna. Well, we will if the clouds don't return, growled Mist. Apparently, spending too much time in the same room with Lightning could cause these kinds of outbursts, although this time I agreed with her. You can't stay here forever, even if the clouds don't return. My parents would find out. It's too risky. Wait, Miss, don't you make clouds? I asked. Yes, but I need a cloud to make more clouds, Miss sighed. Who makes the first cloud? I pondered out loud. Well, obviously the cloudies do that kind of stuff, Miss said. By the look on my face, she could tell that she would have to explain yet another strange thing from the hidden cloud cat world. So she continued. There is a sunrise cat that starts the day. Then the cloudy cats, they're very rare, and only their kind of cat can walk on the air with nothing. I thought that it was weird that the cats couldn't just walk on air, considering that they can when they're on their own air steps. They make the first clouds for the cloud makers. Then they watch all the cloud cats in the world to make sure they are doing their job correctly. The only break we get is when enough weather has been produced to last a while. Then we all go to Skytop Clouds, where we all hang out, relax, and visit the different shops. You see, we have watched the Furless and start copying some of their things like stores, Mist announced proudly, then continued in a more embarrassed voice. The sky goes cloudless when all the cloud cats are at Skytop Clouds. And today we were working so much that we didn't realize our break was coming, and now we are locked out of our kind of world until break time is over. I flopped onto my bed and sighed. Lightning and Mist could be here for a very long time. Rose, what's all that meowing upstairs? My mother's voice drifted slowly up the stairs. Lightning, Mist, hide under my bed, I whispered anxiously. Soon my mother was in my room, standing near the door, interrogating me. I heard meowing, she said with a hand on her hip, scanning my room. Sometimes I feel like a meowing, I lied weakly. I didn't want to give away the animal making the noise. But she already knew. Rose Evelyn, do you have a cat in your room? She thundered, not buying it. No, it was a toy, I whispered with another feeble attempt. You don't have a cat toy, she hissed. Yes, I do. It's under my bed, I said as a half-thought-out plan began to form in my head. She went over to my bed and bent down and returned with 2 hissing cats, Lightning and Mist. Go get your father now, she screamed. I ran downstairs and got him. He called animal control. Knock, knock, knock. Suddenly, a man with a long gray mustache and short gray hair arrived. My mother was still holding the cats, so my dad brought the animal control guy. Yes, a cat. I will take it, he coughed. No, actually, there's 2 cats, my mother corrected. Oh, well, I still don't see it. Just give them to me. I've been at this job for so long. I've been telling them I don't need a cage. I can carry them, he responded honestly. So my mother gave him the 2 cats and he was off. Then she returned to me. Stay in your room, she said, and she and my dad walked away. The door shut behind them. No, I screamed internally. This wasn't what I wanted. I thought my mother would let them go, not call the pound. I stared up at the sky, which was still cloudless, and saw something dart from one star to another star. Chapter 9. Was that Mr. Lightning? No. They were at the animal shelter, but I would have to see tomorrow. Sleeping was not easy. It did not come quick. I just had to lie there on my bed, willing sleep to come, but it wouldn't because my mind was full of thoughts. What if that was Mr. Lightning? Was it another cloud cat? Were they looking for Mist and Lightning? Were both Mist and Lightning up there? This went on for a very long time. Finally, sleep came, but even my dreams were filled with questions that I could not answer. Rose, come downstairs and eat breakfast, my mother called. Then I heard the familiar popping sound of the toaster producing my mother's very raw toast. I came downstairs. I had to go to Little Elmwood Park and see if Lightning and Mist were there. Like always, a plate was slid in front of me containing a breakfast of honey waffles, eggs, bacon, biscuits, and gravy. After eating nearly everything on my plate and nibbling a bit on my toast, I asked my mother if I could go to Little Elm. She agreed, but only after looking at my plate to make sure that I had eaten enough of my food. Dashing out the door, I made my way to the now so familiar Little Elmwood Park sign. I scrambled up the air steps and found Lightning and Mist waiting for me. Why did you tell your mom where we were? Mist demanded. I thought that she would just put you outside, I sighed. See, Lightning, I told you she wouldn't have done it on purpose, Mist said to Lightning, who was looking very reassured. But you shouldn't do that again, Mist added. So you're going to hide in my room again? I asked. Lightning licked his lips, obviously remembering the tuna. Guys, look! Mist was staring at the cloud next to ours, which was shredded up in black. A stormer must have done this, whispered Lightning. Chapter 10. You mean one of the things that killed my brother? I whispered. A wave of fear shot through me. No, this could not be happening. But it was. Yes, replied Mist, following Lightning's lead with whispering. Why? After all of that they made me go through, they were back for me. A growl pierced the ear and shattered my eardrum. Even though we couldn't see the stormer, we could see the path of destruction it was leaving behind. Another shredded black cloud was left behind, a few feet in front of the one beside our cloud. "What are we going to do?" asked Miss, no longer whispering but leaping to her feet, forming a plan while I tried to snap out of the trance I was in. But I was far away, thinking about things I couldn't face. Ross was dead. He had been for a while, and he always would be. No matter how hard my family tried to deny it, to forget that Ross existed, because if he never existed, then he never died. But he did. My mother built a wall around me, protecting me from sadness and memory. And the times that I did remember or thought about him, we wouldn't discuss it. We would pretend that it didn't happen. But for some reason, when that stormer came, it sparked something that tore down that carefully crafted wall that prevented me from remembering, because avoiding it was easier. "Rose," Lightning looked worried. Now I knew that forgetting wasn't the answer, and that sometimes we need sadness. "You too can deal with the stormer. I've got to do something," I said, with determination filling my voice. Mist and Lightning looked shocked, but ran off in the direction of the torn clouds. Chapter 11. "He's gone," I told my mom. "He always will be." "What are you talking about?" my mother asked in confusion. "Ross," I replied, looking her straight in the eye. "We don't talk about him," she whispered. "I want to remember him. There's no fixing the past. He was my brother, and now he's dead, and I want to be sad for him. I wish we would talk about him." Suddenly, my mother was hugging me, which was something I had not expected. "You're right," she said with a small sigh, and the gleam of an unshed tear forming in the corner of her eye. "We should remember Ross." Just then, Dad came into the kitchen. "What's going on?" he asked wearily while rubbing his head in confusion. "Ross and Rose, you two were inseparable," my mother sighed. "We don't talk about Ross," my dad said. He was definitely confused now. "But there's nothing we can do about that, so we shouldn't block him out," I replied. "Ross always looked out for you, and you did the same for him," my dad added to our pile of memories. They really did have each other's backs. My mother and Dad were taking turns talking about Ross. His favorite color was green. His favorite animal was a cat, they reminisced. Then all too quickly it was nighttime, and I went up to bed, while my parents went to theirs. I woke up the next morning happier than I had been since we moved. I could hear that my parents were awake as well, so I walked down the stairs. "Rose," my mother smiled. "Good morning," I replied. Sizzle. My mother went over to the pan that was bubbling up. "So what are you making?" I asked. "Boiled eggs," my mother responded. "That's different," I noted. "I'm leaving to go to work," Dad said goodbye, then left. "I'm going to Little Elm," I said, eager to see what the Cloud Cats had been up to, now that some of the grief of my family had been lifted. "Not before you eat," my mother argued. I could see that there would be no arguing this one, so I sat down at our gray kitchen table and waited for my mother to finish cooking so I could be served. Normally, I'm not hungry in the morning, but today my stomach started to growl when I saw the boiled eggs, fruit platter, and hash browns, Ross's favorite foods. After eating everything, I asked my mother again if I could go to Little Elmwood Park, but I already knew her answer, even as she spoke it, yes. I arrived at the park just as the sun peaked up enough to spread its warm light throughout the trees. "Lightning! Mist!" I called to the empty clouds, but there was no answer. They were still tracking the stormer, I surmised. I hoped nothing had happened to them, especially since I had left them alone to deal with it in my hurry to go home yesterday. "Lightning! Mist!" I repeated. I knew it was probably in vain. They always greeted me promptly and would have no other reason to come, unless they were simply not here. I scanned the clouds looking for signs, but there weren't any shredded clouds, or any black ones either. I walked back down the air steps, but their iridescent outline was disappearing completely. Hesitantly, I placed my foot onto what looked like air and put my weight on that step. It was still there. Everything was clouding up. Chapter 12. "Please, Mist, Lightning, come on," I called to the emptiness that lay around me, even though I knew it wasn't going to do any good. I had already been looking for what seemed like hours and could not find a trace of them anywhere. Panic squeezed my heart, and I began to run back down the air steps. When I got down and was on the ground, I realized I had a problem. I couldn't see anything. I took a step forward and hit the trash can. This was going to be hard. "Hello? Anyone?" Then suddenly I heard a familiar shout above me. Anyone?" I repeated. "Rose!" The sound was closer now, close enough to recognize it, and as soon as I did, I responded while running up the air steps. "Lightning!" I called, even though fog was everywhere else. When I got to the top of the clouds, I saw my friends, Lightning, Mist. They were alongside a black cat with tear-shaped white paws and a black, white, and gray spotted tail. "Who's that?" My friends had been missing, and my only question was about the newcomer. Mist introduced me to a cloud cat named Dewdrop, who had been with his mother and father when the stormer they had been chasing came and killed both of them with a blizzard. Before that had happened, they had told Dewdrop to run as far as he could and hide. If he hadn't been so small, the stormer would have definitely found him, Mist concluded. Mist was able to use her powers to temporarily blind the stormer while I struck him with lightning. This knocked him out, and we put him in a cave guarded by bolts of lightning so he could not get out. "It looks like his terrorizing days are officially over," Lightning said proudly while Mist gave him a high paw. We then went back for Dewdrop. Because we couldn't leave him by himself with no family, we decided to take him with us. "We're going to care for him now," added Lightning. "Wow, this is amazing, you guys," I replied. I was a little sad I had missed the action, but I knew that the healing that took place in my home was also really needed. "It is good to meet you, Dewdrop. I know you have been through a lot, but I am here to talk about it whenever you are ready. I also lost someone to the stormers a few years ago," I said, directing my attention to Dewdrop, whose head was hanging in what had to be a mix of exhaustion and sadness. I knew the road ahead of him was long and daunting, but I also knew that there could be life on the other side of the grief. "There will still be more stormers out there we will come across, but now we have a plan on how to stop them, and maybe there will be more hope for the Furless and the Cloudcats in the years to come," Mist confirmed. "Hopefully I can be there to help you out on the next one." I was excited to think about the adventures in life that lay ahead of us. "Absolutely," Lightning said, and I saw a small spark of hope enter Dewdrop as well. "Okay, you guys, if I don't get home soon, my mother will get worried about me," I apologized to my friends. "We'll see you tomorrow?" asked Mist. "Absolutely," I exclaimed, and I ran down the air steps. Thankfully, the fog had cleared up. It was amazing how it didn't hurt to talk or think about my brother anymore. I was relieved that Lightning and Mist were back, and we had a plan to take on more stormers. Even though those things were the only things that had changed these past few days, I realized that everything finally felt complete, like it was always supposed to be. About the author. Abagale's an 11-year-old girl who lives on 2.5 acres in rural Texas with her parents, 2 younger brothers, a sister who is still cooking in her mother's stomach, 2 full-sized horses, 1 mini pony, 8 lion-headed bunnies, 12 chickens, 1 cuddly goat, and 3 cats plus 3 kittens born recently. When she does not have her nose buried in the latest youth fiction story, she can be found letting her imagination loose with her brothers as lead characters in most of her pretend play. She loves learning, and her favorite subject in school is writing. Thank you for listening to my book, and I'm so glad I could read it to y'all. Bye!